Dream Cycle classes itself as the next evolution of action-adventure, an ever-expanding portal into the unknown. Released on Steam September 7th as an early access title, the game has already racked up a mostly positive score. They do make it pretty clear to you that the game is still heavily in development, and is currently rough around the edges with lots of bugs and performance issues. And it might be worth noting that the game was created by Toby Gard, who was part of the OG Tomb Raider team that brought us Lara Croft. Dream Cycle features an original story based on H.P. Lovecraft's series by the same name. Now, hearing that alone gives a good idea as to what sort of themes you can expect from Dream Cycle. Dark fantasy riddled with creepy monsters and an extra healthy dose of eerie tension. When you first start the game, you're given the option of playing in either first person or third person, which is quite nice to have. I personally chose third person and set off on my Lovecraftian adventure. When her essence is stolen by a long lost relative, arcane apprentice Morgan Carter finds herself trapped in the dream realms on the edge of death. With the realms shattered and corrupted, she must track down her legendary great-great-granduncle Randolph Carter in order to take back her power, thwart his plan to become a god, and bring light to the Dreamlands. Straight away I noticed a lot of visual performance issues with textures popping in and out, and just general lighting issues. There are also quite a few typos and spelling mistakes throughout the game, but I have no doubt that these will be fixed pretty soon. The lighting issues in general became a theme throughout my playtime, and I hope they can get a fix out for these pretty soon, as it would really improve the experience a lot. The cel-shaded graphic style is impactful to say the least, and honestly I've always been kind of fond of it. They have chosen a very desaturated look for most of the game, and everything does look a little muddy after a while in shades of brown and grey. This is obviously a stylistic choice related to theme, and there are more colourful sections as you continue on. I mainly bring it up because when mixed with the weird lighting issues the game currently has, I sometimes found it a bit hard to see what was actually going on. There are a fair few cutscenes and the voice acting is actually pretty good for once.
My kid. No, that's impossible. There's been no other Carter in the Dreamlands since Randolph, and he's long dead.
Not dead. Elsewhere. In the gaps between time and in the bristle of worlds still unnamed.
Morgan is a pretty likeable character, and I found myself invested in her story pretty much right from the word go. The movement feels both very fluid and responsive, whilst also clunky and somehow manages to get in its own way. I found the third person camera got in the way quite a lot, especially when it came to combat. Speaking of combat, they do have the basis for a very nice combat system, but I do feel it still needs some work. The game does feel heavily inspired by Dishonored, and a lot of the skills do feel very similar to those found there. Weapons are found in chests and on the floor around the world. You have your main hand sword or dagger, and then an offhand ranged weapon, which can be anything from a short bow or long bow to an SMG, revolver, or even a bolt action rifle. I rarely use these myself as I found them very awkward to aim with in third person. It's kind of the movement and the camera clashed in this weird way, and I just found it way too hindering to be bothered with it at all really. I did use the sniper a few times, and although it was pretty fun and, powerful, it did draw every mob in the vicinity and it almost got me killed quite a few times. One issue I did have with the combat is Morgan's main assassination move, Shadow Strike, I think it's called. At first it seemed to work really well and I was having a lot of fun with it, but then the more the game carried on, I started to have more and more issues with range and positioning. Sometimes I had to be almost on top of the enemy before I could even use it, and then the camera would glitch into the floor or into the water and I wouldn't be able to see what was going on. Hopefully they can make a few tweaks to this and really clean it up and make you feel more lethal. Now you do also get some spells to use, and they come in two categories: personal and ranged spells, which I kind of think of as battle spells. Personal spells are things like the Shadow Step skill that I abused during every map to get around with ease, whereas combat spells include a lightning bomb, a kind of force hold, and some sigil traps and things like that. They're all usable, they're all, very good skills. The lightning bomb especially I had some fun with, it feels very powerful. The main issue is actually the system to change the spells and select the one that you want during combat. It's really clunky, and halfway through a fight when you need to shadow step and then change to an attack spell, and you have to like hold down a button and then select the new spell, and then then you can cast the spell, and it's all just way too much for this like fast-paced action combat. Hopefully they can make some changes here as well. I feel like it would be a lot more intuitive on a controller, which you actually see in the game on the HUD here, that they are showing a controller layout for the keys with buttons and stuff, but on keyboard and mouse, they really do need to add some hotkeys or something, at least for a couple of spells, just to make it feel a little bit more intuitive. Now, in terms of levels, the game boasts something like 10,000 different levels. Every little square on the map is its own level, with its own enemies and challenges, and I have to say, the world does feel absolutely enormous, and surprisingly cohesive for a map that's so big with so many small little parts. But I do have to say that after a few levels, I was finding it all to get a little repetitive. I mean, some levels have like kill all enemies as the challenge, while some others have like kill a boss, which they call an eidolon. And then the main story missions have you like hunting down these giant glowing sun-like orbs to continue. So yeah, there is variation there, but it would be nice to see a little bit more, especially with like some of the mobs. I think I did 4 or 5 levels and I fought 2 different types of mobs in all of those, which was the ghouls and the like humanoid zombie type people. One more note before I wrap this up and give my conclusion is that there are some crashes in the game. The first time I played the game I had to step away for a few minutes, and upon returning I found that the save had failed. The second time the game gave me such a big jump scare that it actually had a fatal crash and I lost everything. So just something to keep in mind when playing so that you don't find yourself losing everything like I did, save often. Oh my god! Jesus Christ! Oh no. Fatal error. So overall, I really do feel that they have a very solid foundation for a great game. If they can make a few tweaks to things like the camera and some combat elements, fix those crazy lighting and graphical issues they're having, then they'll be well on their way to delivering a very atmospheric title. Some more variation in the levels and challenges would also go a long way to making the game feel, not quite so repetitive. If you do want to check out the game for yourself, it is currently on sale on Steam. I'm not sure how much longer that's going on for, but the usual price is around £15.99. For me, it is definitely worth playing. I really did actually enjoy it, even with all the issues. It might be an idea to wait a little while if you are not really interested in playing a game with so many bugs or so early in its, development. So let me know what you guys thought about Dream Cycle down in the comments below. Have you played it yet? Are you planning to play it? Or are you just really not that interested? I hope you enjoyed the video. That's all from me on this one. I'll see you in the next one.